Pokémon Centers are the most iconic buildings across the Pokémon series. They've seen several variations over the years, so today we're going to look through each of them to determine which one's the best. Generation 1 is obviously the first time we ever see a Pokémon Center, and establishes the fundamental building blocks from which all Pokémon Centers in the future would be built on top of. The PC, the song, and the Pokémon Center lady who heals your Pokémon, and no, she's not Nurse Joy, that's an anime thing, and we hate anime here! Despite looking like every other building in Pokémon Red and Blue on the outside except for the Poké sign, the interior is very distinct with this weird floor tile. I like it, though I have heard some people compare it to nails on chalkboard. There's some plants, a bench, it's cozy. Of course, we're still in the dinosaur age, before color was invented by Isaac Newton. Yeah, it wasn't just gravity that he figured out, but I'm not really gonna count that against this poor old place because, as I literally just said, it wasn't an option at the time. It is a little funny how far the PC is from the door, like, literally as far as it can be. And while we're over on this side, the right counter is where you do all of your multiplayer stuff. The Cable Club, where players can connect to each other's copies of the game using an ancient technology known as the link cables. I feel like this is a pretty baseline Pokemon Center because it literally is the baseline Pokemon Center, but at the same time, it's very unique compared to all the other ones that come later. They never really did it like this one again. It's a B tier. At first sight, I honestly thought this one was a visual downgrade, and I mean, it kinda is. It's smaller, the floor texture isn't as nice, and there are no plants, and the music isn't as good. Like, cool, there's a beat now, but we're missing some harmony and reverb compared to the original song. Everything just looks a little bit nicer, no doubt helped by the new addition of color, thanks Ike. The Pokemon healing bed scanner thing is more detailed, and so is the PC, that's still on the farthest away tile from the door. The new upstairs is the Cable Club, now with 3 separate desks for each link cable activity. Trade, battle, and transfer from the old games. I don't think this needed 3 desks or a second floor. The first floor already don't got much going on. And the outside is basically the same as in the first game, sans the windows, but the roof is a little different across the region. Ain't that neat? Overall, I don't think this center's great. C tier. These games introduced maybe the most iconic Pokemon Center design that ended up being the new template for a while, and because of that, it's kind of the worst version. Like, look at that floor Pokeball, it's gross. For the first time, we have a table, a map, that's handy for when you forget that you have one on your person, books to read with your eyes, plant, and the PC isn't as far away as possible, it's just pretty close. Exterior-wise, the Pokemon Center finally gets a makeover, establishing the red roof and white Pokeball logo that means one pink-haired baddie inside. For the first time ever in the entire series, ever, there is an escalator in the Pokémon Center, very different from the stairs of yesteryear, yet they lead to basically the same thing. A place where you can link up with other players to battle and trade, but also now use the record mixer, which at first I thought would be a cool hidden Pokemon music minigame or something, but it's a way to share player-dependent data like secret bases. Overall, this is a pretty good Pokemon Center on its own. I think it's a little boring, but I'd be remiss to put it anywhere other than A tier, except it's not on its own, this is a comparison. It's like C tier, because Fire Red and Leaf Greens are basically the exact same thing, but better. Yeah, there's not much to say. Everything just looks a little bit nicer, like the heal machine having spots for each of your balls and the Pokeball logo not looking cursed. Though I do actually like the exterior of the Hoenn Pokemon Center a little bit more, but I love the little windows on top of this one like in the original games. The second floor is no longer the Cable Club, but now the Wireless Club. There's 2 desks here, one for the Union Room and one's the Direct Corner. I didn't understand what the Union Room was as a kid, and I still kinda don't. It's a room where you can hang out with apparently up to 40 other players, something that's almost certainly never happened before. There's a basic chat system, which is pointless because you need to be in the same IRL area as everyone in the room, so just like, I don't know, talk to them. You can trade and battle people, but why do literally any of that when the Direct Corner does the same thing without the aforementioned Onion Room? And you can also play the minigame Berry Crush here. What the hell is Berry Crush? Mashing the A button. This is a pretty standard Pokemon Center, simply a refinement of what came before. B tier.
Daring today, aren't we?
The Sinnoh Pokemon Center is basically the same as the last 2, but somehow even more boring. It's empty, almost no furniture to make room for the new downstairs escalator. Upstairs is the same stuff as last time, trade, battle, mix records, and downstairs is the Wi-Fi club where you can battle, trade, and even use voice chat with people registered on your Palpad. Ain't it crazy they put voice chat in a Pokemon game before? I don't like the music in this one. It's just kind of annoying. I don't know, is that a hot take? The nighttime music's okay, but I hate the daytime version. I don't really like this center. It's incredibly unoriginal. There's nothing that sets it apart, but it does low-key have the best exterior so far. Doesn't save it from D tier though. Okay, the theming's pretty basic. The outside is your standard Pokemon Center, and the inside colors are boring, but they were cooking with this layout. It feels big, which I love. One of my favorite things a Pokemon Center can do is feel like a community center, which this one does by size alone because there are no chairs. The asymmetrical stairs are cool, the music's good, plants, and the PC is right up front. Upstairs has the same functionality as before, but downstairs got a huge addition, the Wi-Fi Plaza. A sort of evolution to the Union Room that would be themed around a certain type and changed every time you entered it. There were mini games, touchscreen toys, and a parade with Pokemon floats and fireworks. I never got to experience this because I never had these games and never will apparently, but it sounds like this was a pretty cool bonus area. A tier, probably the best center so far. The Unova Pokemon Center takes what worked about the last one and cranks it up a notch. Finally, we have another new design, a super clean, efficient floor plan, where in addition to the regular Pokemon Center, beige and red, we get a lot of blue thanks to two things. One, the camera angle being slightly tilted so it's not completely overhead like before, allowing for a better view of the windowed walls, and two, the integration of the Pokemart on the right. It's beyond convenient to have everything under one roof, even if it does mean that we can't get that rich convenience store atmosphere anymore. Across from the shop are some cute little tables and a magazine rack, and the top floor has the standard wireless and palpad Wi-Fi options, but also a global matchmaking option for trading and battling. And then also a globe where you can look at the Earth and register where you live. I don't know why you'd ever use that. And the outside looks pretty cool. This is the new best Pokemon Center. S tier. Actually, nah, it's this one. This one's the GOAT. Pokemon Center lady is front and center, making the time to heal super fast due to her short distance from the door. Even then, the task of healing your Pokemon has immediately seen some additions like the behind-the-counter display and the variable camera angles made possible by the jump to 3D, which has also allowed for the most detailed interior to date. There's multiple lounge areas you can finally sit in, the Pokemart, and space for a changing room now that all the multiplayer communication was handled by the PSS on the touchscreen. Everything here serves a purpose, making for the most efficient Pokemon Center yet, where before a lot of the junk here went unused by the player base. The futuristic red and white aesthetic is a little bland. I'd say the Unova Center slightly edges this one out in appearance, but this is still pretty good. And the exterior's alright. It doesn't need the side archways on the top. Those look kind of weird, but whatever. The only complaint I have is that the center's a little small, but as I mentioned, that kind of works in its favor. And despite the small size, they crammed a lot in here. Easy S tier. Oh, okay. Yeah, it makes sense that this one's a little boring. There's not really much they could have done. This is a remake after all. It's just a step down from the last couple Pokemon Centers, and in some ways, kind of all of them, because there's really not a ton you can do here. We don't need the Cable Club anymore. The shops are separate, so all there is to do is heal your Pokemon and use the PC, which is all you really need, but there's just nothing else. They do change the music on your birthday, so that's special. I've kept my Alpha Sapphire save file in a Pokemon Center for 7 years, so it would never go away. The regular music is good, but also the most common, basic, overplayed Pokemon YouTube video music ever.
What's up, Poke Friends? Today we're gonna be ranking the top 10 Pokemon feet.
Now, the only standout thing about this center is the exterior. That's a good looking building. Honestly, this might be the best one from the outside until literally the next one we're gonna talk about. B tier. Yeah, so nice exterior. The center looks huge on the outside, and the inside lives up to that promise. It's easily the biggest in the series. I love the way this looks. Like some sort of fancy tropical resort with the wood plank floor that opens to a stone floor and then a Pokeball rug. The reflections kind of make it look like glass or something, and so do the sound effects. I can't really tell what it is, but it looks cool and it's very unique. You got the healing counter with the Pokemon Center lady. The shop looks really good. This is the first one of these Pokemon Center stores that actually looks like a store. You can even see their inventory behind them, and there's a glass display case. And then on the other side, we have the Pokemon Center Cafe. Did anyone ever use this? You can order drinks for your trainer, but they don't do anything. Once a day, they'll give you some random treat from a different region and some beans. Like, okay, this is cool. I like that there's an in-game shop for trainers at every Pokemon Center. It makes the world feel more real, but it serves basically no gameplay purpose and replaced the changing room from the Kalos Pokemon Centers, which sadly never returned. The music is again pretty pog. It fits the Alolan region well and establishes a very chill vibe. Overall, this is just a good Pokemon Center. It takes a bit of a step back in functionality compared to the X and Y ones, but its theming more than makes up for it. S tier again. And we're back to the boring design, but I kind of like it in this game. It might just be because it's the highest graphical fidelity Pokemon Center we've seen yet, but this one's alright. The floor is a little different with only one side of the Pokeball. It looks nice. I like how everything is designed towards a central point. And maybe it's the camera angle, but this center also feels decently sized compared to the other ones in this style. But with all that said, this may be the least featured Pokemon Center ever. All you can do here is heal. Now that Pokemon box management can be done from anywhere. This is my favorite looking of the template Pokemon Centers, but it doesn't serve any purpose outside of healing, so I'm giving it a B tier. This is the Pokémon Center that inspired this video. I was playing through Pokémon Sword for the first time recently, and I wanted to change my clothes, but there wasn't a changing room, and not every city has a clothes store, so I was just left disappointed because this used to be a feature in every Kalos Pokémon Center. So the Galar Pokémon Center. I'm very mixed on this one because it's one of the most barren centers to date. There's nowhere to sit or anything. This doesn't feel like a place that anyone would hang out at, which is especially sad because according to this game's director, this center was meant to emulate a British pub where people could gather and watch Pokemon battles. So while it does fail at, you know, what it says out to do, it still looks gorgeous. I love that the exterior doesn't just look like a basic Pokemon Center. It blends into the architecture of the region super well in a way that a lot of the others didn't go out of their way to do. The inside matches the cottage-looking exterior and feels very homey with its carpet and pictures on the wall and the plants. Each of the 3 counters look better than ever. I like the weird volume-esque healing area and the animation it plays. Like Sun and Moon, the Pokemart looks like a cute little shop, and I love that there's an information center. That makes so much sense in-universe-wise and offers a bunch of useful services that before would only be in like one place, like the nickname raider or the move reminder. And then there's the new Rotami PC, which also has a bunch of useful stuff like the daily lotto. I thought we didn't like gambling anymore, Pokemon. Pokejobs, which are little missions to send Pokemon on for experience, and the card maker. Like, dude, if this center just had a changing room, it'd be inarguably the most useful one ever. This is a very solid A tier, but it loses some points because it fails as a community center, something they explicitly set out to do with this one, and the music is kind of annoying. But functionally and aesthetically, this is one of the best. Alright, well, it's basically the same as the original, down to still having the wireless and Wi-Fi clubs, even though they're not really necessary anymore. I still personally don't dig the music. To me, the Sinnoh Center will never be good. Our final Pokemon Center comes from the most recent games. Duh! It's maybe the biggest change to the Pokemon Center formula we've seen in the series. There is no interior, you can just walk up and do your business. It's all about getting you back into the action as fast as possible, which I really appreciate. With the outdoor design, a lot of visual changes had to be made. The new Pokemon Centers resemble gas stations with the beacon-like sign at the top, and the details like the rotating advertisements and the overhead speakers. Here you can heal Pokemon like always, except you don't have to wait for each ball to be placed in the machine, which is nice. You can buy stuff at the shop, pretty standard, make TMs using materials you collect in the overworld, and connect to other players' games for simultaneous multiplayer, which blew my mind the first time I played the game. I really like this one. A tier. So that's the final ranking for all the Pokemon Centers so far. X and Y's are the GOAT, like I said before. Thanks for watching my video. I hope you had fun, and that's it. I'm out of things to say. The script's over.